Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, I hope that you are excited about the coming 2 weeks. I mean, the Merit program is something special generally. These 2 weeks are specifically, for many, life-changing because you get the chance to be the kind of learner that you really hope your students always are. And so what we'll be doing as we explore is as much as we are talking about specific ideas, trying to get into that mode where we say, this is how I can recreate something special for my students. All right. So I'm going to talk about EdTech innovation from the perspective of how do you get kids to remember the stuff that happens in class? How do you make learning memorable? All right. So as I mentioned before, I run a little nonprofit called Next Vista for Learning. You guys have seen a couple of the videos on that site, is that right? All right. You'll see a couple more as we go through. But what I want to do is I want you to think in terms of the power of video for getting kids into a particular kind of learning. Now, I want you to have this page open right here, todaysmeet.com/rh-merit15. All right. Oh, does not exist. Open my room. It exists now. Okay, so there you go. All right, so you can reload that page and it'll be right there. Now, once you're in here, one of the things about a Today's Meet, have you guys already used this? Yeah. Fantastic tool, and I would strongly recommend that you create an account. There is totally free, you don't need an account. There's free with an account, and then there is what you pay for. Go with the one that allows you to sign up for an account, but stay away from paying for it until you've got a better sense of it. I mean, you don't need to pay for it. I don't. The power of having an account where you've signed in is that you can remove comments that, let's just say, aren't as uplifting as you might want them to be. All right. So we've got people saying hello. We can also share freebies or other links, right? So if you want to put in a little link, you can, and then it becomes very easy for people to follow up on that. So feel free to use that as you think about things you might want to share as we go. Now, you might say, okay, you have a slide with an egg. Why an egg? I will tell you about an egg. If you would descreen and look my way for a minute. However that works for you is good. Now, when I was in high school, when I was a junior in high school, I had a chemistry teacher named Mr. Plyler. I could spend my entire time this morning telling you Mr. Plyler stories, right? I mean, the guy was just so amazingly cool and interesting. He only had one hand, actually, which is kind of interesting. You might say, well, why is that interesting? Well, when he'd been a teenager, he'd been making plastic explosives in the basement of his mother's beauty parlor, and there'd been an explosion. His hand had been right there. It took the brunt of the blast, vaporized his hand, but saved his life, and he goes on to become a chemistry teacher. How cool is that, right? So the guy was just so fascinating, not because he only had one hand, but because he was a teacher who really spent time getting to know us and what we might be capable of in terms of our learning. And so one day we walk into the classroom, and he says, all right, everybody, you're going to get an egg. At least half of you guys have done this project, right? You're going to get an egg, and you've got these materials. I'm going to throw your egg off of a building, and it needs to survive the fall. And we're like, whoa. How many of you have done this before, by the way? Right? Lots of you. Why? Because it's a really, really cool project. Because then you're into that kind of space of like making something kind of cool and interesting, and will it survive the fall? And almost everybody succeeded in doing this, except us. We actually came up with this prototype that worked really, really well. And then like right at the last moment, my buddy Paul, who I still blame for this today, right, is like, let's put in 2 water balloons to absorb the shock. And I was like, we didn't do that before, and okay. And then so we throw it off, anyway, so the scars will heal. Anyway, right? The way I look back at that, I look at that as like this moment of very memorable learning. I mean, I remember the conversations now, right? What are those moments for you? Not in terms of just something memorable, not even memorable associated with school, not even memorable associated with interpersonal relationships. This teacher really cared for me. That's great, but what I'm talking about is what do you remember in terms of a learning moment? A learning moment. So something that happened, high school, middle school, elementary, doesn't matter, where you're like, that really stands out in terms of my learning. Talk at your tables real quick. I mean, just like we're going to take 30, 45 seconds to do this. Stuff that really stands out. Go. On 3, if you can hear me, go shh. 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Now, that was not nearly enough time for this. I apologize, right? But what I want you to do is think about the things that you either said or you were getting ready to say had I given you enough time. And I want you to add that to the chat. So try to reduce that experience down to 140 characters or less and add it to the chat. What was that memorable learning experience that you were either talking to people about or that you were getting ready to? So that memorable learning piece, try to get it into the chat. So for me, it was protecting an egg. What was it for you? Or what was one for you? Teaching someone else something I didn't know very well. That's a powerful moment for anybody, you know, that sense of I have something to give, right? Shocked by a capacitor, awesome. All right. If you have finished putting yours in, I hope you're reading what's popping up in the chat. These are interesting moments, right? These are the kind of things that happen that allow us to stop and go, wow, wow. In a sense, wow, I'll never forget that. Because there are moments that we never forget from our learning. And there are many, many, many more moments that we have no chance of recalling. Descreen and look my way. The same goes for our teaching. There are days when we could ask our class, what did we learn yesterday? And people are like, oh, we did this and this and this. Everything was going. People were into it. And other days it was like, what did we learn yesterday? Crickets. Nothing, right? People are like, psh. And then you think, what did I teach yesterday? That happens. It happens plenty. So the question is, how do we make something memorable? And if we're trying to make something memorable, how does that relate to the idea of innovation in terms of education, technology, this kind of stuff? So I want us to think along these lines for a minute. Thinking about the stuff you've seen in the chat, and there's loads of goodies in the chat, all right? Thinking about that, what are the characteristics of that learning? What are the things that make that learning memorable? Toss out some quick ideas, and I'll repeat them so that we get them on the recording. Hands-on. So hands-on is one thing. Choice.
I think long-lasting.
Long-lasting, all right? So there was plenty of time to actually absorb it.
Indelible impression in your mind.
Absolutely. So an indelible impression in the mind, right?
Independent, differentiated.
Okay, it was differentiated. It was independent in a way. Oh. Authentic. What else over here?
It was more observation. So when you observe something and you're not exactly instructed, and you got to think about what you were seeing.
So you weren't spoon-fed via an instruction. You actually had to stop and
Yes.
get it to happen. That's cool. Yeah.
Things
What else?
that were new the first time you tried something.
New the first time you tried it. Excellent.
Applicable to the real world.
Okay, so applicable to the real world. What else? Right over here? Accomplishing something I didn't think I could. Absolutely. Turning negatives into positive. I love that. Investment.
Having an outside audience.
Having an outside audience. Big, very big.
Fun.
And it was fun. Eric. It was like, I was going to have fun too. All right, good. Now, when we think about these different pieces, what I come up with in terms of the different things that I think apply, and I think we captured these, and you guys added more to them. I mean, I think the list, if we included the stuff that you brought in, would be better than this list. But it's these kinds of things. Participate actively. When you're moving, it makes a difference. That's the short and long of it, right? Creatively discovering something new. When what happens is you're not just told, memorize this, but figure this out, and you figure it out, especially if it becomes associated with you. When I was teaching Japanese grammar, we went through a thing called the Te form, right? Te form of verbs. And I'd give them this set of verbs that they already knew. And then I'd show them this other form. I'd say, how do we get from there to there? What do you think? And they'd kind of powwow about it. And I say, well, you know, talk to me. What do you think? Well, you do this and this. Okay, we'll call that the Mark rule. Mark's like, oh, it's a rule. You know, that kind of thing. And if what we do is we get them associating their thought processes with the learning process, something powerful is happening. Leaving the realm of the predictable is huge, because often students sit in class and essentially they know what's coming. They may not know what you're about to say, but they know what's going to happen. How does class start? well, there's 5 minutes of this and 10 minutes of pair share and blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, if they kind of just know what's coming, they move into that low gear. That's not where we want them. Excellence, real excellence. We tend to praise children for things like breathing out and then breathing in. You know, way to go, right? And what we're doing is we're fostering cynicism in kids when we praise them for stuff that they know they didn't have to work too hard to do. And then something meaningful, right? It has that larger audience. If you've ever heard me speak before, you've heard me say one thing again and again and again. When students know that others will see their work, they want it to be good. When it's just for the teacher, they want it to be good enough. And that difference is really important in terms of their excellence, their quality, how they think about innovating. Because they have to be in a space where they think they can come up with something cool. They can, but they may not think so. And they operate on what they think, not what we hope, right? We say things like, all right, who doesn't understand, right? Which is actually a terrible question, right? We're like, that's not a terrible question. We have to know who doesn't get it. Yeah, but if they would respond to it in that way, that would be great. But that's not what they hear. What they hear is, who wants to raise your hand and announce to the room that you're an idiot? Anybody? Anybody? Right? And so what we want is to have them think in terms of, I'm capable. So how do we set up the experiences for this? Now, I'm going to give you a couple of samples. Get it? Samples, quilting, it's a joke. Anyway, all right? So a couple of samples of what I think is memorable learning based on the thing that I do, which is video. All right, and you guys are going to be doing video, right? You're going to be making a video in this 2 weeks. You're going to make a video. How many of you have made a video before? How many of you have, but only like once or maybe a year, something like that? How many of you have never done it and you're like scared poopless about this whole thing, right? All right, don't worry. There's so many cool tools out there that allow you to do this. I mean, it's much easier than you think. Like a lot of things in life, it's that kind of thing where you get to the other end of it and you're like, that's it? Oh my God, I was so worried. All right, so what we want to just kind of think, okay, well, where are we going with this? I want to start with the idea of meaningful, that last item in that list. Last item. So when I think of meaningful, all right, I think of a project I did at Sarah High School, all right? Got a representative of Sarah here, Eric. Ooh, yeah, excellent. All right, with a theology teacher of freshman boys. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think freshman boys, I mean, that kind of equates to bonehead, right? I mean, it's just... If you are a freshman boy and I just insulted you, I apologize, right? But nevertheless, you know, the question becomes, well, what can we get them to do? So I worked with Ed, the teacher, to come up with an idea on how we could get these guys to do kind of a cool project. And the idea was to get the boys in groups to go out to charities in their community, learn about the charities, interview volunteers, and then create a video telling the story of the charity. All right. So I'm gonna show you one. This one is called Foster City Little League Challengers Division. Let me get it up there. Boom. And let me move this over here. Weak. And do that. Wah. And now here we go.
The Foster City Little League Challengers Division is a program that enables all people of all ages with disabilities to play the game of baseball. All people in the league have a disability, which can range from autism to not being able to walk. Even though these people are not as fortunate as others, they are treated with the same respect and have the same desire to play the game of baseball, just like anyone else. Volunteers at this program are there because they love to help others do what they love most. Each game that these kids have a chance to compete in, they are having a blast. Every fan that shows up is there to support these children.
Note the credit for the Creative Commons licensed music. All right, cool. And how many of you watch that and you're like, oh, you know, I'd love to have my kids do something like that? Okay, so let's kind of talk through that idea for a minute. Now, when we think about yes. Okay, so when we think about getting kids to do something along these lines, the whole idea of getting them outside of the classroom, you know, in a sense, knowing that they have that kind of extra meaning attached to what they're doing, that there's this other audience, right? All of these pieces are important. And what we build into it is this, and this is the project that has come from this, and we've had schools in a lot of different places in a couple of different countries take part. So they learn the charity story, stuff I was telling you about earlier. But think about the pieces, right? Request visuals. Just going through the process of saying, you know, excuse me, I'm a student at such and such school. We're going to make a video about your charity, if that's okay with you, and we're wondering if you might have images or footage that we could use to help make that. Right? That process all by itself is big for a lot of students, to learn to communicate like an adult does. So there's a lot of pieces of this, but the key piece is the revision, going back again and again and again and trying to get it right. Doing something, showing it to your colleagues in the class, you know. All right, what do you think? Getting feedback. Showing it to your teacher, getting feedback. Showing it to the people of the charity, getting feedback. Making it better, make it better, make it better, make it better. Now, I have in this slide a link to loads of detail about doing this project. You're like, well, that's not very helpful. It's up there on the screen. No, at the end I'll give you a link, and you can get to all of these slides. So everything that's in there, you'll be able to get back to. Now, I have a couple of extra little pieces in there for you as well. So for example, I've got a 2-slide Google Slides template for you that's designed to do what? You pull out a Creative Commons licensed image from a particular site, you put it in the slide, you put a little attribution down here. It's a slide, so you can even link back to that page. And on the second slide, you just put why you chose that picture. You're like, that's not much. Right. That's the idea. What we want is for them to simplify the process down to properly cite your source. Because as soon as the project gets larger, that's the first thing that they stop worrying about. So if you have a project that's like, just cite your source, then you can help them kind of move in that direction. Now, in case you teach the little ones and you're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, that sounds like a little too much for my kids. I've got another service video for you that is made by a group of kindergartners and first graders. This one is called Heart Houses. All right, and let's do that and play.
Well, first, you need some glue and some markers to color and glue the pieces together. Okay, so you need like shapes and you need like squares and triangles and rectangles. You can glue something on the back to do a pin on a magnet. Sell the Heart House for $5 if you want.
Love it.
We're gonna get the money at Superstore Sandy McDonald's.
Cool stuff. Oh my goodness. I mean, there are lines in there that she gets in, you know, like, you know, where it says, like, I feel it in my heart when I make art. It's like, you know, those kinds of things. You know, a kid says, making a difference makes me happy. Well, if we had a world full of those people, better world, you know, this kind of thing. And then you got your young entrepreneur selling hard for $5 if you want, right? I'm like, awesome. Now, every kid is going to find, in a project like this, every kid's going to find an outlet to contribute. Really what we're shooting for is to get the kids to understand they have something to give. It's not just about grades. It's not just about how well you studied. You have something to give. Now, if they're making great grades, that's great. But the first thing we want them to have is the confidence that they can succeed. And that happens a lot of different ways, not just by the things that we do in class, right? Now, let's talk about another kind of project, an exploratory kind of project, where the idea is to come up with new kinds of questions together. And this actually builds off, by the way, the art right there by Corinne Tagar. Yay, all right. This project is called the Global Geo Video Project. And what we're doing is we've got some schools around the world, right, participating in making videos about fundamental concepts in geography so as to help other people learn them. Oh, see, that's creative, that's interesting, that's the idea. And if you're interested in this, of course, let me know. But let me give you kind of an idea of what we explore. Okay, that's a desert, right? The Sahara, it's a desert. There's the Mojave. That's a desert too. They're both deserts. Desert, desert. Are they the same? How are they different? And you start working on ideas there, right? Because they both get this title, this term, this word, desert. But how they're different's a different question. And if people start to explore that, because they haven't been told, here's how they are different. Instead, it's more like, come up with some stuff. What can you see? What do we see from the images? What else might have a effect on this? Does it have to do with weather? Does it have to do with culture and economics in the area? How are these things actually different? Those are interesting questions. If you look up the definition of desert, it's something along the lines of a barren area of land with little or no precipitation that makes it hard to support life, something along those lines, which makes the largest desert in the world what? Antarctica. We don't tend to think of Antarctica as a desert, but if it's the definition, how do we think about the words we use in class? I mean, what kind of learning is memorable, right? It's the stuff that takes the terms that we've been using forever and makes us go, oh, wait, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Now, you've got all kinds of possibilities along these lines, right? Oh, I'd love to connect with like a school in another country. You know, can I work with you on that? If at all possible. Can I do it on my own? epals.com. I mean, it's free? It's free. Thank you. You're welcome, right? And in addition, you've got 5 teachers in here from Mumbai. I mean, if you get to the end of these 2 weeks and you don't have like something lined up to work with their students, do it all, right? I asked a group of teachers at one point, I said, all right, give me a geographic fact. It was actually in this room. Told you, okay, get in groups, come up with slides and come up with a geographic fact. Teachers came up with facts. Grapes grow in Italy. It's a fact. Okay, fine. And then I said, okay, look at the slides, because each group had a slide deck, right? So each one had a slide. Go look at the other slides in your group and add questions about what you see. All right, well, what else grows in Italy? What products come from grapes? Where else are grapes from? These are perfectly good questions. And then I said, stop. Look at the questions. Are they cool? Are they fascinating? And the teachers looked back at me and said, give us another couple of minutes, right? And then they did this. Far better questions. Same group of people, same place, same assignment. What was the difference? I asked them to come up with something cool. How often do we give assignments to our students and we never go, and make it cool? We don't do it. We're not used to doing that, are we? Why shouldn't we? Because often, that's the one thing that's needed to get them to actually make something really cool and interesting. So we can get them there just by asking, right? And a third project, focusing on excellence. And this is the one that I assume you will kind of zero in on as a part of the project you do this week and with your students. It's about edu-videos, all right? Short videos that creatively explain something. How short? 90 seconds or less. Wow. Does that include the credits? No. You have up to another 60 seconds for credits. That's great. Happy to help. Now, I'm going to show you another video, because that's the way I roll. All right, here we go. So this one was put together by a teacher with her students. So there's actually 3 strands in our contest. We do contests. Student contest, teacher contest, collaboration contest. Why would you have a collaboration contest? Because the high school students had no chance against the cute choreographed third graders. So if we kind of make the collaboration something where you could have the cute choreographed third graders in their own category, you see what I mean. All right, so anyway, so this is called vocabulary mystery. This is like a perfect example of a collaboration piece. All right, so let's get this over here and do that and play.
Hello? What? A vocabulary mystery? I'm on my way.
What does vacant even mean?
Without understanding vacant, it just doesn't make sense. There are clues you need to look for to figure out the meaning of a word. Use context clues. Let's figure out the meaning of the word cunning.
Clue is trick. It tells us the students were tricky. Cunning means tricky.
Time to keep reading to see what a word means.
Carnivores are carnivores. I wonder what a carnivore is.
Keep reading.
Carnivores are animals that eat meat.
Now let's look at a picture to figure out a word.
The kids were elated when they got to Disney World.
They look pretty happy.
So elated must mean happy.
Now let's break apart words to figure out what they mean.
I see the word toothache in the compound words. Toothache. I know it means a tooth that has an ache.
Honorable. I know able means given, and honor means respect. Honorable means given respect.
So, all we need to do is look for clues?
The sentence tells us that the neighbors moved away. That has to be a clue.
If the neighbors moved away, the house would be empty.
Vacant means empty.
I guess solving vocabulary mysteries isn't so hard after all.
Look for clues.
Do you know your vocabulary? Vocabulary, vocabulary. Do you know your vocabulary? It's all around the text. There are prefixes and suffixes, context clues and compound words. But never forget your pictures. That's just what might help you.
Has a whole lot of cute in one video, huh? Now, the idea is that they've created something that is useful for reading purposes, right? And you might look at that and you might think, oh, that takes a lot of time to do that. Will the kids remember it? Not only are they more likely to remember it, as opposed to say, here's a sheet with a lot of strategies for reading, memorize these. Oh yeah, that works, all right? Not only that, but they've got something to look back to. They can go back to the video and watch it again. Oh, remember that? Oh yeah, you were talking about that. Oh yeah, all right, that kind of thing. And so if we can get them in that space where they're creating stuff that they will remember both as the result of the experience of making it and creating something that allows them to review, I think we're in that kind of memorable space that we want to be. Now, this too is one where, I mean, I could spend all day talking to you about kind of project pieces with this, but let's look at some of the things. First of all, you're making a video over these 2 weeks. There is a summer contest going on. You do not have to enter your video in a contest, but why not? Why not? What's the value of entering the contest? First of all, you'll get feedback. Hey, cool video, but could you make it better this way? Could you do this to it? Could you add a credit for that music that you have in there, right? That kind of thing, showing that it's from one of the approved sites. There's a lot of different things going on in that regard. If you're going to make these, though, what you really need to do is watch what others have done. You have to watch other videos. Otherwise, you've kind of got this one thing in your head of what a video is going to be. Students are like that. If you tell them to make a video teaching something, they're going to have somebody stand right here, somebody standing at the whiteboard and doing this. That's their experience of learning something. And that's not very interesting. Because in video, you can do all kinds of things. You can drop bowling balls through pieces of wood or whatever kind of helps get a particular idea across. So a lot of possibilities. Getting feedback, right? Don't have them start, making a video right away, nor should you. Come up with a plan. What would be a cool thing? But this is kind of short. It would only be 20 seconds long. Is it a good video that would help somebody remember something? 20 seconds is fine. Now, then you start working on it, then you get feedback on that. And then you submit it to us and you get feedback from us. Then you revise it yet again and then publish, and it's on our site, and have fun with it, right? We don't use YouTube, so even if you are a school that still blocks YouTube, fewer and fewer of those, thank goodness, all right? you can get to our videos typically. So we're very happy to highlight what you and your students have done, what we want to do at Next Vista. I say we, it's actually like, how many full-time employees do you have? You're looking at them. All right, there you go. All right? What we really want to do is highlight creative approaches to learning anything. And so kids need to learn they have something to give by teaching something cool in some cool way. The cool part's important, right? When Lisa and I came up with our talk, actually I met several people. Lisa, when we were coming up with where are you, Lisa? No. Right. No. It's my partner for the, what was the thing we did this morning? You're coming up with not the nickname, but not the handshake, but the slogan. Yeah. Good to see you again. So what we came up with was, you're thinking there's like 6 Lisas in the room. All right. So we came up with thriving, excellence, coolness. TEC, tech. Get it. Anyway, so right. That's the idea. Can we come up with this kind of stuff in the learning? Well, I've got a bunch of sample videos for you. I'm going to describe these. We're not going to look at them now again because of time, right? But first I've got some specific examples. Movie tips and tricks. Kid put this together to talk about ways you could make your videos better. If you're going to make videos, good to watch a video about how to make your videos better. Collecting like terms was done by a merit teacher. It was the first video we ever made. But it's a really good video. Why is it a good video? Because he had a good plan. You want to come up with a good plan. How do you come up with a good plan? You talk to people. How do we come up with our lesson plans? We corner ourselves off in a dark place, and nobody comes close. May I see your lesson plan? No. Why would you want to do that? Right? And then we go into the classroom and we close the door, and we're like, we're going to do this lesson. Don't tell anybody, right? And if they like it later, then you're out. You're like, it worked, or something. But otherwise, you're like, I must go back to the drawing board. But you're really kind of working on the next thing. No, it's silly. What we need to do is kind of talk to each other. What are the cool ideas that we can share? Show it to your colleague and be like, what do you think? That sucks for this reason. Really? What else? I love that. Okay, well, let's see what we can do with it. Essentially, if you learn this about feedback, thank you. Whether you're going to take the advice or not, you just say thank you, and then you move on with your life. And if you've got 6 pieces of advice and you don't like 5 of them, go with the one that's going to change it and make it better. Are you with me? All right, so that's the idea. Now, here are 3 sets of videos. The finalists of our contests. Now, the finalists of our contests, those must be really good videos. Yes, or they were submitted at a time where very few people entered. Student entries in the summer, man, if you're in touch with a student, you're like, hey, not student, all right, now, if what you want to do is you want to make a video and be a finalist, your chances are great in the summer if you're a student, right? We just get fewer submitted. We get like this many in the fall and this many in the spring and then there in the summer, right? And you guys can enter. Because we have plenty of finalists. We have a lot of honorable mentions, things like that. We want to get you involved. Service via video submissions. If you were kind of intrigued by that video about the Challenger Division and Heart Houses, take a look at those. See what you think. You're like, I want to do a project like that. Let's work together and make it happen. By all means. And then Next Vista's careers collection. I love this. 100 and a little and change videos about different careers. Wow, different careers. Yes, they're designed to answer 4 questions. What's your job title? What does a typical day look like? What kind of education or training did it take to get the position? And what do you love about your work? And there's a real range of quality with these videos. Some are brilliant, others less so. And if you have kids watch videos like this and have them come back and answer certain questions, right? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Had it been you, how would you have created that video? That's the big one. Because it gets people in that mode of, well, I think I would have done this. Now we're beginning to get ideas out there. As opposed to, I'll stand at the whiteboard and explain it. It'll be great. Not really. So if you do that, you can get them good, right? So with the careers videos, it'll be like, oh yeah, I watched this one video. Somebody said choice earlier. Like that was something really powerful, choice. Yes. Say, here's 100 videos. Choose 3, all right? Any 3 you want. Oh, well, maybe that one, I don't know, I can't choose. All right, go, right? That kind of thing. And so then they start watching and they say, oh, they were interviewing this guy who was standing next to a road, right? And so you could barely hear what he was saying because of the car noise. Right, don't do that. They were interviewing this woman and she was standing in front of a window and the light was coming in, you could barely see her. Right, don't do that. It was so boring. They were interviewing the person and we were just standing against a wall just the whole time. They never changed the visual. Right.
Don't do that.
Right. So if they're talking to each other about things that just don't work very well, they're mathematically less likely to repeat the mistake. Not insured against it, but mathematically less likely. Let's talk about why this matters. I want you to get back into your computer, back to the chat, and I want you to simply add to the chat something cool you have heard students say in the last year or 2 or 5 or whatever. So think about just cool stuff that you've heard students say. And I mean cool, like, wow, that's a great moment to hear that, right? Toss it in, see what you come up with. Oh, Debbie, that's awesome. Oh, nice. Your classroom has plenty of magic in it. Man, I'd go frame that at home, stick that on the fridge. It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. It's true, it's true. Okay, there we go. All right. This class is why I come to school. Now, you look at the things that are popping up in the chat. You look at these ideas. When do students say things like this? They say things like this when they're having memorable learning experiences, when they're connecting with teachers who show that they care about them. You know, I don't know who originally said this, but it's just one of those things, right? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, exactly. Right? And then you create the kind of learning that is memorable, and then you get a lot of this kind of stuff. This is why we teach, right? The stuff you're seeing in the chat, this is why we teach. Can I take your class again? Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. They connect with us. And through those connections, we help them understand that they have something to give. When we think about innovation, we're not talking about building a better keyboard, or at least I'm not. That may be a perfectly good project. What I'm really talking about is how do we change what we do? How do we innovate our work as teachers so that what happens in the classroom gets more powerful every day? There's a thing that I've been saying for a couple of years, and I want to add this thought as we wind this down now. When you think about learning technology, okay, stuff just happens so fast, right? Things change so fast. When Roni was talking about this earlier, he was spot on, right? No one knows everything about EdTech. If you know everything there is about EdTech right now, 5 minutes from now, you're going to be behind the way it is. Too bad, right? And you can either let that be kind of a big bummer for you, or it releases you. You're like, all right, no worries. I'll just find the stuff that fascinates me so that I can find what will be really cool in the classroom so that these kids will go, wow, about their learning. Think about your learning this way, right? When you think about your learning, don't stop and think, I can't do what this other person is doing. I can't do what this other member of my department is doing. I can't do what this presenter is telling me to do. We get into this mode of comparing ourselves to others, which is not what we should do. What we should do is understand this. The only person you ever need to compare yourself to is the you who you were yesterday. That's it. The only person you ever need to compare yourself to is the you